Good morning, everyone, to this edition, a very special edition of Coffee with Jim and James. James, I tell you, there's a lot going on these days, and let me just tell you a quick little story. Decades and decades ago, I got a bonus one time, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this bonus besides putting some money away? I went away for a weekend, and then on the way back, I stopped by, and I wanted this socket set. I had wanted it for a long time. And it may sound strange, but I got this socket set that, I could work on at that time I had a Jeep, and I could work on the Jeep and do things like that. And again, James, I bring up that story because there's a lot going on right now. And, especially with some of the stimulus. And I think, you and I wanted to get together and just talk about not financial planning by any means, folks. This is not a financial
And we
planning.
are anti-financial planners.
Yes, we are.
Anybody
Yeah.
who knows me is like, yeah, I don't take financial advice from James or Jim.
No, do not
The
do that.
rule of thumb today.
But we want to talk about investing in ourselves and yourself, and in a very serious way. And James, it's funny that decades later I realized that bonus money, how I spent part of it, actually fit into many different things, but one of them could be considered like sharpening the saw. Some of the 7 habits that I've continued to learn today. And it's just great to maybe share some thoughts about what James and I are kicking around in our head with how people can invest in themselves and take stock in themselves.
Yep. Yeah, I think I read a stat. I don't even know what the number was, but it was a high volume of stimulus money they feel like are going to go into the stonks and crypto, which to each their own. There's some people that are getting this money that maybe that don't need it as much as others, but once I think our big talk, this started from a LinkedIn post. Shout out to Nathan who said this might be good content.
Yep.
We agree. Here we are, but helping people understand, like that bonus you talked about. I remember getting a bonus one time and that's essentially what we are, right? This is our bonus for being Americans. How do we, help other folks get back on their feet? And so I remember getting a bonus. An old boss of mine walked in one day. This was a different time, but walked in and handed me just cash in an envelope. Boom.
Really?
On a Tuesday. And there's just something about cash, especially back
Yeah.
then. And it just being a random Tuesday, but we'd killed a project and he wanted me to fill it. And I did. And funny enough, I left work early that day. That makes sense, right? Here's a bonus. So I left early. And I went straight to Golf Galaxy and I bought a set of golf clubs. I'd never had a nice set of golf clubs. They were always hand me downs. They were always, knockoffs and all that. I went and bought me a set of pings. Now, I don't play golf very well, Jim. You know that. But I still play with them, and they're an investment in my sanity. So that's really what we want to talk about today. I broke it up really into 3 things, and I think we just kind of wade through it, Jimmy. But
Yeah.
the first one I think is important. So for those that are getting stimulus money, is investing locally
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Local and small businesses got hit really, really hard this year. And so, how can you use that as their home improvement? I'm putting a fence in right now for the same reason. I want to spend that locally, but, investing and that falls in a lot of categories, but first and foremost, local.
Yep.
How can our restaurants need us, Jim? Man,
Yeah.
those servers, those people, like, how can you put this money in people's hands so they can put it to work for them? Is really important. Jimmy, how do you feel about local?
Well, I absolutely 100% agree with that. You're in Texas, North Texas. I'm in South Florida, 2 different worlds, so to speak. We live by hospitality down here. And I'll tell you, over the last year, it's been
Was
tough.
that a shot? Like, we don't live by hospitality here in Texas? Are you saying both?
Well,
Get out of
Well,
here. Yeah,
no,
I know.
we do, but
Tourism more. Yeah.
tourism, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
tourism,
I got
that's
you.
the
I
right,
got you. Better watch
yeah.
out.
The hospitality
There you go.
industry. That's what I was trying to say.
Mm,
And it's, I mean, really, it's been devastated down here
yeah.
over the during the COVID time. Not just hotels, but amusement parks and all the attractions and restaurants and coffee shops and everything like that. And we were hunkered down for a long time. Like make the pilgrimage to the grocery store, stock up as much as you can, come home and cook. But
Same.
we did take, we made a conscious decision to try to get. We didn't go to restaurants, but we got takeout. And in the past, you go get takeout, and let's say it's $30 or $20, and you
Right.
leave like a $2 tip just as a courtesy. I tell you, you go in there and you see these people, and you see the look on their faces, and if it's a $20 pickup meal, and you leave them like a
Yeah.
$10 tip,
That's
their
huge.
face, and people say, "Wow, I could really thank you. I needed that. I could really use
Yeah.
that." That's gonna, I mean, I had one lady one time said this, I'm trying to buy a new pair of shoes for work. And I looked down and she had shoes that were, restaurant shoes, but they were very old.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I reached in my pocket and I didn't have much, but I gave her some more money. I said, bless you, appreciate
Yeah.
everything you're doing, and she was so thankful. And it was just a little bit, but again, investing in the area. But what about you? What do you, besides you're building a fence?
Yeah, that's a big part of what we're doing. I mean, that's just in general. We made a commitment this year to spend money local, no matter what. We were going
Sure.
to listen, we still go to Target, you know. Um, my wife, I think, would leave me if that wasn't the case. But boutiques and food, we tried to, take out when we could. That
Yep.
was a big thing. We try to tip well. Um, but let's talk about the second one, Jim. I think another way that you can invest is really investing in yourself. We joke about it all the time at Energy WorldNet. We are we're an education company. That's one of our pillars, and so
Yep.
we promote people going out and learning and taking workshops and getting as much education under their belt. And I always joke around with our teams that that's things that no one can take back from you. If 2 years from now you decide this isn't where you want to be, or you find a better opportunity, things change, whatever. Um, no one can repo your education, right? I mean, so the more skills you can add, and that looks different for different people. I pick up every book that I can imagine
Right.
helping me. I enjoy that part and owning them, but I also enjoy listening to Audible, you know.
Sure.
And so think about subscriptions that you would maybe not buy. If your outlet is music, maybe you buy a Spotify subscription that's going to last you for a year or 2 years, and you're like, wow, now you've got this awesome service to utilize. So whatever that might look,
Yeah.
maybe you want to go to a workshop, or you know have one of the experts in the industry consult with you. um, Paying for something like that out of pocket sometimes is something you just kick to the side nonstop, put it on the back burner. It's a great time to invest in yourself.
Yep. I agree with you. And I'm a little bit more old school than you. I do a few things electronically and I have, and I'm making a joke out of that. But one thing that we've enjoyed lately is that there's actually still a bookstore down the road, and going to the bookstore, going in, being very safe and, walking around and just finding, a book that you can, learn something, get some knowledge, have something tangible in your hand. I mean, for me, it's a fun thing, and it's a little bit of a release, and it's a great thing. Everybody's probably living by the streaming TVs or cable right now and all that. And just after a while, you just it just becomes numbing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it's a good release at times, but
Yeah.
expanding those medias, like you said, in a workshop too. I tell you what, when you can get into a workshop, we took one or I did, about virtual conferences, last fall. And I tell you, just, hearing how people are communicating virtually and some of their struggles and some of the, good things and some of the challenges, but just that interaction,
Yeah.
a workshop away from work, type of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
But yeah.
it does. And some of that drifts into really the last point, which is the sanity side of it, right? There's some
Oh,
things that, and that manifests differently, right? That may mean that I'm going to get another chicken, a new chicken, or a bunny, I don't know.
yep.
Uh, it may mean that I'm going to get new walking shoes, or that sounds like an old man. Got my walking shoes. Um, but you know what I mean? A new pair of shoes because I plan on walking a lot this year, and it may be scheduling that vacation, or it may be doing the charity work, you
Yeah.
know. Um,
Yep.
that may fall insanity. It may be local, however, but taking some of that windfall and giving it back is so important. And
Yep.
it doesn't always have to be a transaction where, locally, sometimes you feel obligated, like I'm going to go out there, I'm going to try to buy local, I'm going to support, which is great. We should do that. But sometimes it's okay too to just give it all away, right? Like we've said this year.
Yeah. Let me a quick story. South Florida, the food banks have been struggling. They've been depleted, and we have unfortunately a high homeless population. And Tammy and I went and got some just those little string backpacks, right?
Yep.
And then we bought some little trinkets, socks, down here flip flops. You can get flip flops are
Yeah.
everywhere, and maybe some toiletries, a bar of soap, things like that, and made these little backpacks, and we keep them in the cars. So when we're driving around, if we see somebody like that might be asking for help, we give them one of the, oh, and a couple bottles of water in there too,
Sure.
maybe some energy drinks, some granola. It feels good to do that. And the look on their face at first is like, what's in here, and we explain that it's, just some items that hopefully help your day a little bit easier. And it's a good feeling, it's a good feeling to do. But that's just one example that we're doing here.
Yeah, and so many people are hurting right now. The charity part's easy. I mean, you can throw. I mean, you can look around and see so many that are asking for donations, things like that. Um,
Yep.
be sure you vet, your organizations and work with ones that are close to, causes to your heart too. Um, but yeah, man, I think Jimmy, that was I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. Again, we've got a lot of people in our industry that have been affected during this pandemic. So, um, no matter where you side on this politically and whether, this stimulus should be here or not, it's here.
Yep.
If you don't like your check that you may or may not have gotten, then you can drop it off at a food bank or,
Yeah.
do something awesome with it. And that's the good news. So, again, I think just educating people and helping them think a little bit different because I
Expand
know I know a lot of people are like, I'm going to go to Costco. I'm going to buy that big TV. Costco has a lot of money. I love Costco. Don't get me wrong, but thinking about it local and thinking about yourself, right? How do you make that side hustle maybe a little bit less of a side hustle, and maybe more of a hustle?
Yeah. Yeah.
So whatever that might look like to you, hopefully this was helpful.
I
Maybe not.
think it was. I think it was great us speaking from the heart during this time. We go and talk to so many industry experts every week, and it's just nice just to decompress a little bit and share some of the thoughts that show a little bit of what James and I are about and what we're thinking about. And a topic of investing in yourself and investing in our community and investing in ways to make you happy and your family happy or whatever, do it. So, on behalf of James and I, we really appreciate you joining us today. We hope you got a little bit out of this and maybe just expanded the thought process a little bit. Until next time on Coffee with Jim and James, please, everybody stay safe and have a great week.
Bye bye, everybody. Jim, do you think they know when I'm wearing a hoodie that's a little more laid back that day?
They might.
No.
I like it. I like
Bye
it.
bye, everybody.
See y'all.